There is a secret known only to the wisest minds, the greatest thinkers, and those who have dared to venture into the depths of their own solitude. It is a truth that contradicts everything the modern world teaches, that silence is not weakness, but the source of your greatest power. The question is, are you strong enough to embrace it? Think about the last time you were truly alone, not just physically, but mentally, when there was no screen to distract you, no conversation to occupy your thoughts, no noise to drown out the quiet whisper of your own mind. Did you welcome that silence, or did it make you uncomfortable? Did you sit with it, or did you run from it? Because hidden within that stillness is a power so profound, so transformative, that monks, billionaires, and the greatest minds in history have all sought to master it. Buddha once said, "You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection." But how can you truly love yourself if you have never sat with yourself? How can you find peace if you have never made peace with the quiet? In a world that is drowning in endless notifications, curated images of perfect lives, and the relentless pressure to belong, loneliness has become a disease. But what if the ache you feel isn't because you are alone, but because you have forgotten how to be alone? Most people treat solitude like a curse, something to be avoided, something to be filled with noise and distractions. But what if solitude is not the enemy? What if, instead, it is the key to your greatest liberation? Here is a brutal truth. Your fear of silence is a prison. Your addiction to distraction is a slow poisoning of your own soul. But hidden in the teachings of the greatest minds is a blueprint, not just to survive being alone, but to thrive in it. Imagine waking up one day completely unshaken by the opinions of others. Imagine facing your deepest fears and emerging not broken, but stronger, lighter, freer. This is not fantasy. For centuries, warriors of the mind have turned solitude into their most powerful weapon, but few dare to master it. Why? Because solitude demands that you face yourself. And most people are terrified of what they will find. But here is the truth. Solitude is not emptiness. It is fullness. It is not a void. It is the birthplace of genius, of clarity, of unshakable peace. There is an ancient lesson that can change the way you see solitude forever. Imagine a vast forest where no two trees are alike. Some stand tall, their branches stretching toward the sky, while others twist and bend, shaped by the winds that have passed through them. Some bear fruit, others bloom with flowers, and a few stand bare, their strength hidden beneath the surface. But none of them compete for sunlight. None of them compare their branches or envy the fruit of another. They simply grow, each at their own pace, in their own unique way. Now imagine if these trees could think like humans. Imagine if they spent their days comparing themselves. If the tall ones resented the ones with flowers, if the twisted branches wished to be straight, if the fruit-bearing trees envied those that stood effortlessly strong. In their longing to be something else, they would forget their only true purpose, to grow as they were meant to. This is how most people live. We measure ourselves against others, constantly comparing, constantly feeling as if we are falling short. We scroll through endless images of curated lives, wondering why ours isn't the same. But what we fail to see is that this comparison is the root of all suffering. Buddha called this dukkha, the unease, the dissatisfaction that arises when we believe we are not enough. And yet he also gave us the solution. Be a lamp unto yourself, he said. Stop looking outside for validation. Stop using others as a measuring stick for your worth. Because when you compare, you only see illusions, shadows of perfection that hide struggles you will never witness. The truth is, every person carries unseen burdens. The one with wealth may crave peace. The one with fame may long for privacy. The one with beauty may suffer from loneliness. No one has everything, and that is why comparison is a losing game. What you see as flaws are often the very things that make you unique. The knots in a tree's bark tell the story of the storms it has survived. The uneven branches show the directions it has reached toward the sun. Likewise, your imperfections are not weaknesses. They are proof of resilience. Your scars, your setbacks, your struggles, they shape you into something irreplaceable. So ask yourself, when was the last time you felt truly content without measuring yourself against someone else? When was the last time you looked in the mirror and saw yourself not as lacking, but as whole? If that moment feels rare, it is because the world has conditioned you to chase approval. But solitude teaches a different lesson. When you are alone, there is no one to compare yourself to. There is only you. The challenge is to shift your focus inward, to turn your solitude into a source of power rather than pain. Here is something you can do today. Every day, write down one thing you admire about yourself. Not something external like how you look or what you own, but something real. Maybe it's your patience, your creativity, your kindness. With time, this simple act will rewire your mind, teaching you to seek self-acceptance instead of external validation. A tree never looks at another and asks, "Am I enough?" It simply grows, and so must you. There comes a moment in life when you realize that no matter how much you explain yourself, no matter how much you try to justify your choices, no matter how much you seek validation, there will always be those who refuse to understand you. And in that moment, you stand at a crossroads. You can either continue explaining, continue justifying, continue exhausting yourself in a battle that will never be won, or you can step into a new kind of power, the kind that does not seek to be understood but simply is. The world has taught you that your worth is tied to how well you can explain yourself, that you must convince others of your value, that you must prove yourself again and again to be accepted. But the truth is, the most powerful beings do not argue for their place in the world. They do not seek approval. They do not waste their breath defending who they are. They simply exist, fully, completely, unapologetically. And in doing so, they command a presence that no amount of explanation could ever create. The greatest mistake people make is believing that if they just explain themselves well enough, they will be understood. They believe that if they find the right words, the right argument, the right moment, others will finally see them as they are. But the truth is, understanding is not given, it is chosen. No matter how much you explain yourself, if someone is committed to misunderstanding you, they will. If someone has already decided who they think you are, no amount of reasoning will change their mind. And that is why the strongest people do not waste their time trying. They do not fight battles that are not theirs to fight. They do not engage in conversations that drain them. They do not seek approval from those who have already chosen not to see them. Instead, they walk away. Not out of anger, not out of resentment, but out of the deep knowing that their energy is too valuable to be spent on those who refuse to understand. Imagine standing in the middle of a storm. The wind howls, the rain crashes down, and the world around you is in chaos. Most people panic in the face of the storm. They try to fight against the wind, to shield themselves from the rain, to control what cannot be controlled. But the wise do not resist the storm. They become the eye of it. They stand in stillness, unshaken, untouched by the chaos around them. Because they know that no storm lasts forever. They know that resistance only creates suffering, and they know that their power is not in fighting the storm, but in remaining unshaken by it. The world will test you. The moment you stop explaining yourself, the moment you stop seeking validation, people will notice. Some will admire you. Others will resent you. Some will be drawn to your presence. Others will feel threatened by it. Let them. Their reactions are not your concern. Your only responsibility is to stand firm in who you are, to move forward without hesitation, to exist without the need for approval. But this is where most people struggle. They believe that if they stop explaining, they will be misunderstood. They believe that if they do not defend themselves, they will be seen as weak. But the truth is, your strength is not in how well you argue. It is in how well you stand without the need to argue at all. There is an old parable of a monk who was walking through a village. A man approached him, angry and full of resentment, hurling insults at him, trying to provoke him. But the monk did not react. He did not argue. He did not defend himself. He simply stood in silence, unmoved by the man's words. Finally frustrated, the man shouted, "Do you not hear me? I am insulting you." The monk smiled and said, "If someone offers you a gift and you do not accept it, to whom does the gift belong?" The man was speechless. Because he realized the truth, the monk's silence was not weakness. It was power. This is the way of the unshakable. They do not engage in battles that are beneath them. They do not pick up what is not theirs to carry. They do not react to every insult, every judgment, every opinion, because they know that true power is not found in explaining, it is found in being. When you reach this level of awareness, everything changes. The things that once triggered you no longer have power over you. The words that once hurt you now fall away like leaves in the wind. The need to be understood fades, replaced by the deep knowing that those who are meant to see you will see you, and those who are not will never matter. But the world will try to pull you back. It will test you. It will try to make you doubt yourself. People will push harder, desperate to regain control over you. They will try to make you feel guilty for walking away. They will try to lure you back into old arguments, old wounds, old patterns. Do not fall for it. Do not engage. Do not shrink yourself to fit into spaces you have already outgrown. Your evolution will be uncomfortable for those who refuse to evolve with you. Let them be uncomfortable. Let them talk. Let them misunderstand. It is not your burden to correct them, because here is the truth. Those who truly understand you will not need an explanation. They will recognize your energy, your presence, your certainty, and they will honor it. And those who do not, they were never meant to walk with you in the first place. You will never need to chase what is truly meant for you. You will never need to explain yourself to those who are truly aligned with you. You will never need to justify your existence to those who are capable of seeing you as you are. So let them question, let them doubt, let them walk away. It is not your responsibility to be understood. It is your responsibility to rise beyond the need to be understood. There is a freedom that most people will never know, a kind of peace that can only be found when you finally stop explaining yourself. When you finally let go of the need to prove yourself. When you finally realize that your worth is not something to be debated. The moment you embrace this truth, you will feel something you have not felt in a long time. Lightness. The weight will lift, the noise will fade, and you will finally understand something that was never hidden, only forgotten. You were always free. You simply needed to stop seeking permission to step into it. This is your time to rise, your time to move forward without explanation, without hesitation, without the weight of needing to be seen, to be accepted, to be validated. The world will adjust, the right ones will stay, the wrong ones will fall away. And you will walk forward, unshaken, untethered, unstoppable. There is nothing to prove, nothing to defend, nothing to justify, only the quiet, unshakable truth that you are. There comes a time when you must ask yourself, how much longer will I explain who I am? How many more moments will you waste trying to make others see what they are unwilling to see? The truth is, those who doubt you will always find a reason to doubt. Those who misunderstand you will always twist your words, and those who refuse to see your growth will always compare you to the version of yourself they were comfortable with. But you were never meant to live for their understanding. You were meant to live for your own becoming. The strongest souls do not waste their breath on explanations. They do not pause their journey to convince those who have already made up their minds. They do not beg the world to accept them. They move forward unshaken, knowing that their worth is not something to be debated. And in doing so, they free themselves from the invisible chains that hold most people down. Imagine a river flowing through the mountains. It does not ask the rocks for permission to pass. It does not stop to explain why it moves. It carves its own path, unstoppable. Knowing that its purpose is not to be understood, it is to flow. Some will admire its strength, others will try to block it. But in the end, the river does what it was always meant to do. You must do the same. But here is where most people falter. They feel the need to justify their choices. They try to make everyone around them understand. They explain why they have changed, why they no longer fit into the mold others created for them. But no amount of explanation will ever be enough for those who do not want to see you rise. And the longer you try, the more you waste the very energy you need to move forward. Look at the people you admire. The leaders, the visionaries, the ones who walk with an undeniable presence. Do they explain themselves? Do they lower themselves to be understood? They act, they embody, they become. And in doing so, the world is forced to acknowledge their presence, whether it understands them or not. But the world will resist. It will try to pull you back. It will whisper that you must prove yourself, that you must explain why you no longer fit into the space you once occupied. And this is the test. Will you give in to the noise? Will you shrink yourself to be more digestible? Or will you step into the quiet power of knowing that you do not need to be understood to be worthy? There is a story of a sage who sat in silence as people accused him, questioned him, tried to provoke him. He never responded. Eventually someone asked, "Why do you not defend yourself?" The sage smiled and said, "If someone offers you a gift and you do not accept it, to whom does it belong?" Not every question needs an answer. Not every battle needs to be fought. Some things are best left in silence because silence itself is an answer. Imagine how different your life would be if you no longer sought approval, if you no longer explained your every move, if you simply were, existing fully, unapologetically, without the weight of needing to be seen. That is true freedom, and the moment you embrace it, you will feel something that most people never do: peace. Let them misunderstand you. Let them question. Let them judge. It is not your responsibility to be understood. It is your responsibility to become. There comes a time when you must decide whether you will live your life seeking validation or whether you will finally step into your own power. Most people choose the first path. They spend their days explaining themselves, justifying their choices, making sure they are understood. And in doing so, they waste the very energy that could have been used to build something meaningful, something unshakable, something real. But the strongest among us, the ones who move through life untouched by the noise, the ones whose presence commands respect without a single word, are the ones who have chosen the second path. They do not explain, they do not justify, they do not waste breath convincing those who have already decided not to see them. They simply exist, fully and unapologetically. Imagine a river carving through the land. It does not ask the earth for permission to flow. It does not explain its direction. It does not stop for those who question its course. It moves because it must, and those who understand its purpose stand in awe, while those who do not are simply left behind. This is how you must live, but the world will resist. The moment you stop explaining yourself, the moment you stop justifying your choices, people will demand answers. They will try to pull you back into the smallness they are comfortable with. They will tell you that you have changed, that you owe them an explanation, that you should not walk away so easily. Let them talk. Their discomfort is not your concern. Because here is the truth. Most people fear those who no longer seek approval. They do not know what to do with someone who does not bend, who does not need validation, who does not feel the need to explain their existence. When you stop explaining yourself, you disrupt their illusion of control. And that is why they push back. But you must not waver. There is a parable of a great temple built high in the mountains. Those who seek wisdom must climb the steep path to reach it. Some will complain about the journey, some will turn back. Some will demand that the temple come down to meet them, but the temple does not move. It remains where it is, knowing that those who truly seek wisdom will rise to meet it. You must be like the temple. Do not lower yourself for those who refuse to climb. Do not explain yourself to those who are unwilling to listen. Do not shrink to fit into the spaces you have outgrown, because the ones who are meant to walk with you will never ask you to justify your path. They will see you. They will feel your presence. They will understand without a single word. But those who do not, let them misunderstand you. Let them question. Let them doubt. It is not your burden to correct them. Your only task is to keep rising. There comes a time when you must ask yourself, how much of my life has been spent explaining myself to people who were never meant to understand me? How many dreams have been delayed? How many moments have been stolen? How much energy has been wasted trying to make others see what was never theirs to see? The truth is, most people are trapped in a cycle of justification, an endless loop of seeking approval from those who have already made up their minds. They argue, they defend, they try to mold themselves into something more acceptable, more digestible, more likable. And in doing so, they betray the most sacred thing they have, their own truth. But those who rise above, those who truly step into their power, they do not waste their breath. They do not explain. They do not beg to be understood. They simply are. Think of the sky. It does not justify its vastness. It does not ask permission to stretch endlessly above. It does not shrink when clouds gather or when storms rage. It remains steady, infinite, untouchable. And so must you be. yet the world will resist. The moment you stop explaining yourself, the moment you stop seeking validation, people will demand answers. Why have you changed? Why are you no longer the same? Why don't you care what others think? Let them ask. Let them wonder. Let them fill in the silence with their own assumptions. Their confusion is not your concern. Their misunderstanding is not your burden to carry. Because here is the truth. Those who are meant to understand you will never need an explanation, and those who demand one will never truly listen. But this is where most people falter. They fear that if they do not explain, if they do not defend, they will be misrepresented. They fear that silence will be mistaken for weakness, that walking away will be mistaken for surrender. But the strongest ones, the ones who leave their mark on this world, they do not concern themselves with how others perceive them. They know that their energy is sacred. They do not waste it on battles that do not serve them. There is a story of a great master who was once falsely accused of a crime. The entire village whispered, judged, spread rumors. He did not fight back. He did not defend himself. He simply continued his life as he always had, calm, steady, unmoved by the opinions of those who had already decided his fate. Days passed, weeks, and then the truth came to light. The very people who had condemned him now sought his forgiveness. And do you know what he did? He smiled, said nothing, and continued on his path, because he had never been bound by their words to begin with. This is the way of the unshakable. They do not beg to be understood. They do not chase approval. They do not waste time explaining themselves to those who have already chosen not to see them. They walk forward with or without the world's understanding. But the moment you stop explaining yourself, you will feel something unfamiliar. A discomfort, a silence, a space where there once was noise. Most people panic in this space. They mistake the absence of validation for emptiness. But in truth, this is the beginning of real freedom. The moment you no longer feel the need to justify your existence, you become untouchable. Think of the great oak tree. It does not bend for every passing wind. It does not explain why it stands tall, why its roots run deep, why it does not move for the storm. And yet it remains. Not because it is untested, not because it has never faced adversity, but because it knows that its strength is not something that needs to be proven. You must live like this. But be prepared. When you stop explaining, the world will test you. People will push harder, trying to drag you back into old conversations, into old patterns, into the version of yourself that was easier for them to understand. Do not engage. Do not shrink. Do not waste your breath. Because here is the ultimate truth. Your worth is not a debate. The moment you stop explaining yourself, you will see clearly who was truly meant to walk beside you. The ones who demand that you justify yourself were never meant to stay. The ones who try to pull you back into explanations, into proving, into convincing, they were only ever testing your strength. Let them go. Do not waste another moment explaining your silence. Do not give away another ounce of your energy trying to be understood by those who will never listen. The ocean does not explain its tides. The fire does not justify its heat. The mountain does not seek approval for its height. And you do not need to explain why you are rising. You simply do. There is a quiet strength in those who no longer need to explain themselves. It is the kind of strength that does not seek to be noticed, does not ask for approval, does not bend to the expectations of those who do not matter. It is a presence that speaks without words, a certainty that does not waver, a power that cannot be taken away because it does not rely on anything external. Most people never reach this level of understanding. They remain trapped in the need to be validated, to be understood, to be accepted. And in doing so, they chain themselves to the opinions of others, never realizing that the only approval they ever needed was their own. But here is a truth that will change your life if you are willing to accept it. Not everyone is meant to understand you. And that is not a problem. That is freedom. The moment you stop explaining yourself, the moment you let go of the need to be understood, you will feel something you may not have felt in a long time. Lightness, a weight lifting, a space opening, a peace settling in the places where stress and self-doubt used to live. Think of a tree in the middle of a vast field. It does not question its right to exist. It does not shrink when the wind blows against it. It does not try to justify its roots to those who do not see their depth. It simply stands firm, grounded, reaching toward the sky without hesitation. This is how you must be: unshaken, unapologetic, unconcerned with the opinions of those who will never walk your path. But the world will test you. The moment you stop explaining yourself, people will push back. They will demand answers. They will try to pull you into conversations that drain your energy, into arguments that serve no purpose, into justifications that you do not owe. And in that moment, you must decide, will you engage? Will you waste your breath on those who have already made up their minds? Or will you walk forward, silent, steady, untouched by the noise? There is a well-known Zen story of a man who was insulted in a marketplace. The people around him expected him to react, to fight back, to defend himself. But instead, he simply smiled and walked away. When asked why he did not respond, he said, "If someone offers you a gift and you do not accept it, to whom does it belong?" This is the key to true strength: not reacting, not explaining, not wasting energy on things that do not deserve your attention. The moment you learn this, you will become untouchable. But make no mistake, this is not about ignoring reality. This is not about avoiding conflict. This is about choosing where your energy goes. It is about recognizing that not every battle is worth fighting, not every question is worth answering, not every opinion is worth considering. It is about understanding that the strongest people are not those who argue the most, but those who no longer feel the need to argue at all. Look at the moments in your life where you have felt the most drained. Were they not the moments when you were trying to explain yourself to people who had already decided not to listen? Were they not the moments when you were trying to prove something to those who were not even paying attention? Were they not the moments when you were giving your energy to conversations that did nothing but take from you? But what if you stopped? What if you no longer gave explanations? What if you no longer sought to be understood? What if you simply moved, not in defiance, not in anger, but in a quiet, unshakable certainty that no explanation was necessary? Because here is the truth: those who truly see you will never need an explanation, and those who demand one will never be satisfied, no matter how much you give. So let them misunderstand you. Let them question. Let them create their own stories about who you are. It is not your burden to correct them. Your only responsibility is to keep moving, because the ones who are meant to walk with you will understand without a single word. There comes a point when you must decide whether you will continue carrying the weight of explanations or if you will set it down and walk forward, unburdened, free. Most people never reach this moment. They remain trapped in a cycle of seeking validation, bending their truth so that others will accept it, adjusting their path so that it does not make others uncomfortable. But this is not strength. This is bondage. And the longer you stay in it, the more you forget what it feels like to simply exist without needing to be seen, without needing to be justified, without needing to be understood. But true power, true freedom, is found in releasing this need. It is found in stepping into your life with the unshakable knowing that your worth is not up for debate. It is found in standing tall, not because the world approves of you, but because you approve of yourself. Imagine a mountain rising against the sky. It does not concern itself with who admires it. It does not shrink when the wind howls. It does not explain why it stands where it does. It simply is. And in its presence, those who respect its majesty stand in awe. Those who fear its height stay away. But none of it changes the mountain. You must become like the mountain. But the world will resist. The moment you stop explaining, the moment you stop justifying your choices, the moment you no longer lower yourself to make others comfortable, they will push back. They will say you have changed. They will call you distant. They will try to pull you back into conversations that drain you, into arguments that serve no purpose, into a version of yourself that you have long since outgrown. But the question is, will you go back, or will you stand firm in your truth? There is an old parable of a monk who sat in meditation while people hurled insults at him. They tried to provoke him, tried to break his stillness, tried to shatter his peace, but he did not move. Hours passed, and finally a man asked, "Why do you not respond? Do you not hear them?" The monk opened his eyes and simply said, If someone offers you a gift and you do not accept it, to whom does it belong? This is the wisdom of the unshakable mind. It does not accept what does not serve it. It does not take on burdens that do not belong to it. It does not waste energy trying to change the minds of those who are determined to misunderstand. But most people do not live this way. They engage, they react, they defend. They spend years of their lives explaining themselves to people who were never listening in the first place. And in doing so, they exhaust themselves, giving away their power, piece by piece, until nothing is left but frustration and doubt. But what if you stopped? What if, instead of explaining, you simply lived? What if, instead of defending, you allowed your actions to speak? What if, instead of seeking approval, you trusted that the right people, the ones who truly see you, will never need an explanation? Because here is the truth. Those who are meant to understand you already do. And those who do not will never hear you, no matter how much you explain. So let them misunderstand you. Let them question. Let them form their own stories about who you are and why you have chosen this path. It is not your burden to correct them. Your only responsibility is to keep moving forward. Because the moment you stop explaining yourself, the moment you stop waiting for others to see you, you step into a power that cannot be shaken. You become like the wind, unstoppable, untethered, free. And those who are meant to walk with you will recognize your presence, not because you explained it, but because they felt it. There comes a time in life when you must decide whether you will keep shrinking to fit into places you have outgrown, or whether you will finally step into the vastness of who you were meant to be. It is a choice, though many pretend it isn't. They tell themselves that they have no other option, that they must keep explaining, keep justifying, keep bending to fit into the expectations of those around them. But that is a lie. The truth is, at any moment, you can stop. You can stop explaining why you have changed. You can stop defending the choices that feel right to you. You can stop trying to force people to understand something they were never meant to see. Because understanding is not something you can demand from others. It is something they must be ready for, and not everyone will be. Some will hear your silence and feel threatened by it. Some will see your growth and feel abandoned by it. Some will watch you step into your power and resent you for it. But that is not your burden to carry. A bird does not apologize for leaving the nest. A river does not ask permission before flowing toward the ocean. The sun does not wait for approval before it rises. They simply do what they were meant to do, and so must you. But the world will test you. The moment you stop explaining, the moment you stop asking for validation, people will notice. Some will admire you, others will challenge you. They will demand that you return to the version of yourself that was easier to understand, easier to control, easier to keep in place. But you do not owe them that. You do not owe them an explanation for your healing. You do not owe them justification for your success. You do not owe them proof of why you are no longer who you used to be. Your only responsibility is to become the person you were always meant to be. There is an old parable of a caterpillar who tried to explain to the other caterpillars why it was building a cocoon. They did not understand. They thought it was abandoning them, that it was making a mistake, that it was losing itself. But the caterpillar knew better. It knew that transformation was inevitable. And so despite their confusion, despite their doubt, despite their fear, it wrapped itself in silence and became. And when it emerged, when it spread its wings and soared into the sky, the same caterpillars who had once doubted it now looked on in awe. Some people will only understand your transformation after it is complete. Let them. Do not waste your energy explaining a journey they were never meant to walk. Do not hold yourself back for those who are not ready to see. Do not clip your own wings just because others fear the sky. Move forward in silence, in strength, in certainty. Because the moment you stop explaining yourself, you step into the kind of power that few will ever know. And once you do, you will never return to the smallness of needing to be understood. There comes a time when you must ask yourself, what is the price of explaining yourself to those who will never understand? How much energy have you given to arguments that led nowhere? How many moments have you lost trying to convince people who had already decided not to see you? And at what point do you finally choose yourself over the endless need to be validated by those who have never walked in your shoes? Most people live in a constant state of justification. They move through life as if they are on trial, as if they must present evidence for every decision they make, as if their worth is something that must be argued for, debated, defended. And in doing so, they lose themselves. They shrink under the weight of opinions that were never meant to define them. They carry the expectations of others as if they are laws, as if breaking them would mean losing their place in the world. But tell me this, who set these rules? Who decided that you must explain yourself at every turn? And why have you accepted this as truth? You were not born needing permission to exist. You were not created to be placed into a mold, to be approved by a jury of people who do not even understand themselves. You were born free, but somewhere along the way, you forgot. Society trained you to seek approval. It conditioned you to explain, to defend, to prove. And now you stand here, wondering why you feel so drained. Why no matter how much you explain, it never feels like enough. But the truth is simple. You were never meant to explain yourself in the first place. Imagine a wolf walking through the wilderness. It does not pause to justify why it moves alone. It does not explain to the deer why it hunts, to the wind why it howls, to the trees why it exists. It simply is. And in its being, it commands respect. Not because it asks for it, but because it embodies it. This is how you must live. But here is where the challenge arises. The moment you stop explaining yourself, the moment you stop defending your existence, the world will push back. People will demand answers. They will question your choices. They will try to pull you back into the cycle of justification, not because they need to understand you, but because your freedom terrifies them. They have spent their lives explaining, defending, seeking approval, and the sight of someone who refuses to do the same forces them to confront their own chains. And so, they will call you distant. They will say you have changed. They will tell you that you owe them explanations, that your silence is unfair, that your certainty is arrogance. Let them. Their words hold no weight unless you allow them to. Their misunderstanding is not your burden to carry. There is an old parable of a traveler who came across a man building a bridge in the middle of the desert. The traveler asked, "Why do you build a bridge where there is no river?" The man replied, "Because when the river comes, I will already be prepared." The traveler laughed and walked away, convinced that the man was a fool. Years later, a great flood swept through the land, washing away everything in its path, except for the man's bridge, which stood strong. The traveler, now struggling to survive, returned to the bridge, only to find the man standing there, unharmed. The lesson is clear. Most people will not understand your path until they are forced to walk it themselves. They will mock what they do not comprehend. They will resist what challenges their worldview. They will dismiss what does not fit within their limited understanding. But in the end, the ones who move with wisdom, the ones who trust themselves enough to act without seeking approval, are the ones who stand strong when the storms arrive. This is why you must stop explaining. You do not owe the world an understanding of your journey. You do not need to justify why you move the way you do. Some will see you as wise. Others will see you as reckless. Some will admire you. Others will resent you. But none of it matters because you are not here to be understood. You are here to live. But there is another truth, one even more difficult to accept. The need to explain yourself is not just about others. It is about you. It is about your own doubt, your own insecurity, your own fear that maybe, just maybe, you do not fully believe in yourself yet. Because if you did, you would not feel the need to explain. Think about it. When you are truly confident in something, do you argue about it? Do you defend it? Or do you simply live it? The person who truly believes in their path does not waste time justifying it. They simply walk it. They understand that time spent explaining is time taken away from actually becoming, and so they do not argue. They do not seek permission. They do not ask the world to understand. They move. Imagine a fire burning in the darkness. It does not call out, does not demand attention, does not beg to be acknowledged. It simply burns. And those who need its warmth will come, and those who fear its heat will run. But none of it changes the fire. It exists on its own terms, without apology, without explanation. You must live like this. But here is where most people hesitate. They fear that if they stop explaining, they will lose people. And they are right. Some people will fall away. Some will not understand your silence. Some will demand explanations that you will not give. Let them go, not with anger, not with resentment, but with the quiet understanding that their place in your life has ended. Because the right ones will never ask you to explain. They will not demand that you justify yourself. They will recognize you, not by your words, but by your presence. They will feel the depth of your certainty, the strength of your silence, the power of your being, and they will walk with you without question. So ask yourself, who are you still explaining yourself to? And why? What would happen if right now you chose to stop? What would change if in this very moment you decided that no explanation was necessary? The answer is simple. You would be free. And once you taste that freedom, once you feel the lightness of no longer carrying the burden of needing to be understood, you will never return to the prison of explanation. Because the truth is, you were never meant to explain yourself. You were meant to become so undeniable that no explanation is needed. You think solitude is loneliness. You think silence is emptiness. But those who have mastered the art of being alone, monks, philosophers, visionaries, know the truth. Solitude is not isolation, it is power. It is the ultimate advantage, the secret weapon that the greatest minds in history have used to unlock wisdom, clarity, and unshakable peace. The question is, are you brave enough to embrace it? You have felt it before. That restless urge to escape yourself, that impulse to scroll endlessly, to drown in distractions, to seek noise just so you do not have to face the silence? But what if the thing you fear, the stillness, the quiet, the emptiness, is not your enemy? What if, instead of running from it, you stepped into it? What if solitude was not a void but the doorway to something greater? The Buddha once said, "You yourself, as much as anybody in the universe, deserve your love and affection. But here you are, running from yourself, avoiding the one person you can never escape. In a world flooded with noise, notifications, curated perfection, the desperate chase for belonging, people have forgotten how to be alone. And that is the greatest tragedy of our time. Because solitude is not loneliness, it is liberation. Your fear of silence is not natural, it was taught to you. You were conditioned to believe that being alone means being incomplete, that constant stimulation means you are connected, that your worth is measured by how many people validate you. But ancient wisdom, hidden in the teachings of monks and sages, reveals something different. Solitude is not suffering, it is strength. And if you dare to embrace it, if you dare to sit in its presence long enough, you will awaken a power within you that few will ever know. Imagine waking up unshaken by others' opinions. Picture facing your deepest fears and emerging not broken, but stronger. Visualize moving through life with a clarity so sharp that no distraction, no noise, no external pressure could ever pull you away from yourself again. This is not fantasy. It is a path that has been walked for centuries by those who sought truth beyond the illusions of the world. Warriors of the mind, sages, monks, thinkers, have all understood that solitude is not a weakness to endure, but a weapon to wield. But few will take this path. Why? Because solitude demands something terrifying. It demands that you face the void and discover that it was never empty. It was full of you. Let that sink in. If you take nothing else from this, take this. Solitude is the birthplace of genius, clarity, and peace that cannot be shaken. The greatest minds in history knew this. The most powerful leaders practiced it, and yet most people fear it, because solitude does not just reveal who you are, it strips away everything you are not. The question is no longer, can you handle being alone? The real question is, can you afford not to? Your journey begins now. There is a moment in life when you must decide whether you will continue explaining yourself to those who refuse to understand, or whether you will step into your truth without hesitation, without apology, without the need for validation. It is a moment of reckoning, a moment where the weight of every justification, every explanation, every attempt to prove your worth suddenly feels unbearable, and you realize that the only way to be truly free is to put it all down. Most people never reach this moment. They remain trapped in a cycle of endless explanations, constantly justifying their choices, their actions, their very existence to a world that is too distracted, too indifferent, or too consumed with its own fears to ever truly listen. They waste their energy on conversations that lead nowhere, on arguments that drain them, on proving themselves to people who have already decided not to see them. And in doing so, they become prisoners, not of the world, but of their own need to be accepted. But those who reach this moment, those who finally understand that no explanation will ever be enough for those who have already chosen not to understand, they find something most never do. They find freedom. They find the power of simply being. They find that their presence alone is the answer, that their silence speaks louder than any words ever could, that their certainty is their greatest strength. And from that moment forward, they move differently. They no longer pause to convince. They no longer waste their breath trying to be understood. They simply move, knowing that those who are meant to walk with them will recognize them without a single word, and those who do not were never meant to.